All right, everyone, welcome back in. It's the Wobcast 2.0, another episode coming at you and coming fast. It's yours truly, Wobby, and my partner and co-host, Gyles, ready to talk undrafted free agents for the Minnesota Vikings with the Vikings rookie camp set to happen this weekend. So an apropos time to talk about some of these undrafted rookies. We spent most of last week's episode talking about the draft picks and our experience at the Star in Dallas taking in the draft, and J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. So let's talk about some of these more unheralded guys, these undrafted rookies that the Vikings have, who are going to have a shot to make their first impression with the club this weekend. And it is important to get an undrafted rookie or two to make your roster. It helps with culture. It helps with cap savings. And it is a testament to your scouting that happens throughout the course of 2 or 3 seasons in the case of some of these players. So Gyles and I are excited to dig into this. And what we're going to do is we're each going to present 2 undrafted rookies who we think will make the team in 2024. So we are excited to do that. Let's bring in Gyles right now. How's it going, partner?
Hey, how we doing? Happy, what is it today? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This entire week is blurring together.
For us, it's Wednesday, Gyles. For you, there are no days because you are in Sin City getting business done. So you probably, like when you walk around casinos and hotels, there's no clocks, there's dry air. There's no days of the week. It's one big blur. I'm sure that's what it feels like for you.
Absolutely. As long as I'm not horizontal in my bed passing out. We're always out and about and trying to earn more business out here, ironically, with a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans. So we were commiserating over our time in Dallas, you and I, and kind of walking through all the different things that we loved about the Dallas Cowboys facility. So it was really fun. But ironically, there's a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans out here. I'm at a trash convention of all things. So hopefully there's not an analogy to be made between a trash convention and the Minnesota Vikings for 2024. But we'll take an upswing and look at the undrafted free agents and figure out how can we turn trash into gold here. So I'm excited for it.
I like that. All right. So you'll go first. So I told you I ranked them. I think there's 17. I ranked them 1 through 17, most likely to make the team to least likely. We're not going to get into all that. We said that we're each going to present 2 to our listeners and our viewers. And so I'm prepared to go in depth on 4 of them, knowing you're going to go first. So you might take my first one. So then I got to go down to my second, third, and fourth. And then if you take one of those, I got to go down to my third or fourth. So I'm ready to go on 4. We'll let you go first. So as you survey the roster, the population of undrafted free agents, Gyles, on the Vikings roster, who are you most certain will make the team, or who do you think has the best chance to make the team in 2024?
Well, since I'm going first, I cannot leave this guy off of number 1 in terms of the best free agent or undrafted free agent that we brought into the building. And that's Gabriel Murphy, the edge player from UCLA. He is the best edge or the best person that went undrafted this year in the 2024 NFL experience, period, full stop, across even the Minnesota Vikings and all other 32 teams. We are in the place to say we have the best undrafted guy, period, full stop. Ultimately, he was born in October of 2000. He's 23 years old. He was born and went to high school in Bishop Lynch High School in Dallas, Texas. So this is a Dallas, Texas guy, which I really, really excited about. But ultimately, he was a 3-star recruit for 2019. He committed to North Texas to stay close to home, obviously. And he actually has a twin brother named Grayson. So maybe next year we can get Grayson in the building. But ultimately, really, really excited. Went to North Texas, then went to UCLA from 2022 to 2023. Started as a linebacker, defensive end. He played a lot of games. He had, at least in that scenario, he had 73 tackles, 12 sacks. And then he entered the transfer portal after the 2021 season. And then he went to UCLA. He started all 13 games in his first year, had 38 tackles, 1.5 sacks in 2022. And then 2023 is where things started to heat up. He had 13 games, 38 tackles, and then 8 sacks. This guy started to hit a real amazing stride, and that's where things really, really came to play here. But if we're looking at the biggest strength, if we're just getting all the different where he's from and stats out of the way, what makes this guy great? What is his biggest strength? In my opinion, it's his pass rush ability, his athleticism. Mm-hmm. This guy is a freak. So when I think about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he's looking at this guy as a guy with a lot of upside. He had an 84 and 86 pass rush grade on his first 2 seasons with UCLA under really good competition. I think that's a really important thing to call out here, as that this guy had elite level play against great competition. Now he was asked to primarily stand up and rush the passer, so I think he'll fit right into the Brian Flores defense. But if we're looking at kind of the obvious question here, why did this guy fall? Like, if he's really this great, Gyles, why in the world did he go undrafted? And there's a very simple answer. It's size. He is very undersized for NFL outside linebacker edge rusher. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. That's not necessarily the right size for an NFL edge rusher. However, if we kind of rewind the clock back to last year, we were having a conversation very similar to this for Ivan Pace Jr. Everyone said, he's too small. That's not going to work in the NFL. Well, he came out to be one of the top 10 middle linebackers in the NFL last year. So, I mean, I don't know if you can always strike lightning twice, but I trust Kwesi's ability to identify people that maybe have a little bit of gumption but are undersized and give him a chance. So I'm excited to see what he can do during training camp.
Yep, I think you're right, Gyles, that I think you hit the nail on the head as to why he went undrafted. It is the size and measurables and some of the time stuff and the combine, the track meet stuff didn't go great for him. And he was in my top 4. Actually, he was number 1 on my list, Gyles. I think you made a great selection here and a really good presentation. A couple of things that I would add, though, to it. 6'2", 247, 30.5-inch arms. So those are the measurables that the scouts and the GMs don't like. They literally have a rubric of like requirements to be drafted. You got to have these. You got to fit into these molds, and he does not fit the mold. He's undersized. He's too short. He doesn't weigh enough. His arms aren't long enough. He's 4'6", 8 in the 40. But then you watch him. You look at his stat line, or you just watch him, Gyles. I mean, he produces. And he's just sort of an athlete out there he's just a good football player. He's just a good football player. And I think sometimes in the pre-draft buildup and the hype, you can lose sight of just, hey, remember, guys, we're not trying to find track athletes here. We're trying to find like football players. And I think he's a good football player, and so I think he's running an uphill race here from a position standpoint, right? Because look how aggressive the Vikings were in this position this offseason. They signed 2 free agents as starters and then drafted Dallas Turner. But I think there's room for a 4th. And Brian Flores picked him. Brian Flores did not pick Pat Jones II, right? So I think you've made a good choice here at number 1. I think he's got a really good shot to make the roster. In fact, I think nothing's a sure thing, but he's going to make a roster. He will be on a roster in the NFL this year. It's just a matter of will it be the Vikings.
I completely agree. And I think if we're kind of projecting forward in his potential role in 2024, if you break it down between, is he a starter? Is he a bench guy? Is he special teams? Does he make the practice squad? Or is he just overall cut? I think there's a chance he does take that 4th overall spot. Because I think to your point, Brian Flores did not pick Pat Jones, nor did Pat Jones really have a standout season last year. And Andre Carter also did not have a standout season. However, it was always understood when we went undrafted with Andre Carter last year that he was going to need a year to develop. So this is where the rubber is going to really truly meet the road with Carter if he progressed in the way that they hoped him to. Otherwise, I think Andre Carter slides down the depth chart and then this guy steps in. So it'll be really interesting to watch.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go to my favorite, Gyles, my number 1 choice. I told you I had Gabriel Murphy number 1. I think he actually does have the best chance. But when I look at a guy who has a legitimately good chance, but also just my favorite player to study in this exercise we had, it was wide receiver Jeshuan Jones out of Maryland. And and I know I've been vocal and we've talked a lot about who's, wide receiver 3, and I don't know that he'll be wide receiver 3, but if I think we're missing a wide receiver 3, it stands to reason I think the room is there for the taking, and I think Jones has a chance to make this roster. Now, he, like Gabriel Murphy, is not going to wow the draft nicks out there because he's 24 years old and he spent 6 years at Maryland. He had 2 season-ending knee injuries. He's 6'1", 188, and he doesn't time great. So I've got some people that have already tuned out on him. But those people need to turn on the tape and watch him, which I did in this last
Okay.
week as you and I prepared for this. And here are the plus traits that I see from Jones. I
Okay.
think he has exceptional spatial awareness. So
Okay.
he lacks some suddenness. He lacks high-end speed. But when you watch him after the catch or when the ball is in his hands, he never takes a big hit. And
Okay.
he's always picking up yards that you don't think he was going to get. So, he always gets to the pylon. He always gets to the first down marker. He just gets there. And he might be cornered by 3 defenders who are in pursuit of him, and he's got 7 yards to go. And somehow the first guy misses him, and he drags the second guy for 2 more yards, and he gets the first down. And it's not sexy, and it's not on SportsCenter top 10, but it moved the chains. And I just respect that a lot about him. I think he's gritty, and I think it's a testament to who he is as a football player. He's been through a lot of adversity. He's had a lot of injuries, but he just still gets the job done. So that's one of his plus traits. He also makes a lot of great concentration plays. He makes a lot of catches in traffic. He makes a lot of toe tap receptions on the sideline or in the end zone. He anticipates contact, so he'll make a catch in the middle of the field, even though he knows he's going to get tackled and hit. I think you saw that in the Ohio State game and the Rutgers game. So I really like that about him. I think that's a pro trait. I think that's something that gets lost on collegiate players. And then third, he's just a calm athlete. Everything looks easy. He's a smooth route runner. He never panics. He doesn't turn the ball over. He catches everything. He doesn't drop anything. And Maryland used him in a lot of trick plays, jet sweeps, wide receiver tosses, double passes. He had a touchdown pass in college. He can line up in the slot. He can line up out wide. He can line up in the backfield. He can take a direct snap. So that tells me that the coaching staff trusted him with his ball handling and with his mental acumen. He could handle a large volume of plays on a large variety of plays. So I really like that. And then when you watch him, he's just got some swagger. Guys love him. They celebrate with him. He celebrates with the guys. He's just got an attitude. He's never showing up someone else, but he's confident. He's not Jair Alexander or Stephon Diggs, like in your face and acrimonious. He's just got swagger. He's cool and confident. And so I really enjoyed watching him. I sent a text to one of my friends at the Vikings in the scouting department, and I said, I think you guys got a good receiver who I really love, who's an undrafted guy. And I didn't really get much of a response back. And I took that as a good sign. Like, shh, like, I don't care. I like him. He's my favorite. Jeshuan Jones. I think he's got a good shot to make the team.
And if we're kind of rewinding the clock here, the Vikings have a pretty good track record of drafting wide receivers from Maryland and exploring their upside. If you're thinking about Stephon Diggs, he was not a first-round pick, and now he's considered one of the best receivers in the game. So, I mean, not to project forward, but hey, I'll try anything twice, as I always say.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I really like that. Okay. Projecting forward in his role, do you foresee him as someone that could not only make the field, but make the team and get into a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 position?
Good question. I think he's wide receiver 5. If they keep 6, he's 5 or 6. If they only keep 5, he's 5, trying to push up to 4. I'm really hard pressed to say that he's above a guy like Sherfield or Brandon Powell. I think it's hard to ask that of him as a rookie. First step is making the team, and I think he's going to make. I think he's going to make the team, Gyles. I think he is going to surprise and make the team. And if I'm right, we'll celebrate it, and if I'm wrong, no one will remember it. But I think that position is there for the taking, man. I just don't think there's. Obviously, they have Jefferson and Addison, and they're really good at the top 2. But after that, I'm just underwhelmed. So therefore, I think that's, if I'm an agent and I got a bunch of clients and players, I got DNs and tackles, and I got safeties and receivers and tight ends. I know it was talked about Minnesota's a great place to send a quarterback, like JJ McCarthy. Great. So But I think when you have undrafted guys, I think Minnesota is a great place to send a receiver. It's a great system. It's offensive minded. There's going to be a good quarterback in place. So I think it's a good spot for Jeshuan Jones to be, and I think he's got a good chance to make the team.
There we go. I like that. Plus, I like any additions that we can make on the offensive side of the ball that don't cost a lot of assets, whether that's cap space or draft picks and things like that. If you can find a way to squeeze juice out of that bin, that's how you build a championship roster, honestly. So really excited about that. So thanks for the call out there. I'm going to move actually over on to the defensive side of the ball again for my pick, my second pick.
Who you got?
You know, I did like Dwight McGlothern from cornerback, or the quarterback from Arkansas, but that's not the guy I'm going to pick here. I am a fan of the defensive side of the ball. So I'm actually going to go with Dallas Gantt, the middle linebacker from Ohio State. If you ultimately he went to Toledo as well, but ultimately this guy's 23 years old. He's 6'3", 230 pounds. I think he grew up in St. John's Jesuit in Toledo, Ohio. But this guy was the 4th-star recruit coming into his 2018 draft class. He was the 10th best linebacker in that entire draft, okay? Coming from Toledo, Ohio, of all places, right? Now, he only played a handful of games when he was at Ohio, not seeing the field very much. However, then he went to Toledo, and he blew up immediately. This guy led the team for all the seasons in tackles. This guy was the first team All-MAC from both years. This guy did actually pretty well, right? Considering that he went to Ohio State to Toledo. Now, some people would make an argument that that's not the right trajectory you want to go to, but I'm still in kind of a respect for Toledo. He went back home and performed very, very well when it came to that. I mean, this guy had an 82.9 grade when it came to his performance in 2023. And I see a resurgence and an incline, so to speak, when you look at all of his performance across the board. But if you're really trying to narrow down his biggest strength here, I think it's his ability to play bigger than he is. He is patient to wait for opportunities for the tackle, for the running back. He is not afraid to take the ball carrier head on. This guy has fearlessness, all right? And when I think about the Brian Flores defense and all the different factors that go into the players that he chooses, I think it is a characteristic that Brian Flores really prioritize, and that's intelligence. That is smarts. That is the ability to play multiple positions and have zero fear. So I really like how he psychographically fits into the Flores scheme, which kind of goes hand in hand to why did he fall? And much like the first pick that I referenced, this guy is simply underweight for an NFL inside linebacker. And when I think about all the different attributes that I want in a football player and what I think Brian Flores wants in a football player, he wants the intelligence, he wants the athleticism. Your weight is something that you can control, right? You can't put a motor inside a guy. You can't put in oomph and gumption, right? And this guy has that. This guy has the ability to go to work and, once again, play bigger than he is. So if he can go even take a full off season to go put a little bit of weight on in the locker room, I think he can be a very serviceable middle linebacker for an undrafted free agent. But I actually think he could step in and be even more so. So if I'm projecting his role in 2024 specifically, whether he's a starter, bench guy, teams, so on and so forth. I do think he shows a tremendous toughness in tackling the ball carrier. So I think special teams is a place that I definitely think he'll make the team and actually make an impact. And I think he will eventually work his way into a starter case. If someone goes down an injury, he's going to go in. Otherwise, I think in 2025, I think this guy could be a starting middle linebacker if he actually puts on the true weight that he needs to. Now, maybe he is doing that work right now, and maybe there's a chance he makes the field much sooner. But I think he has a real opportunity for the Minnesota Vikings defense.
Nice one. I had him on my. I had a couple of notes on him as well. I think I don't give him a bad mark for going back to Toledo either. I'm with you on that. Yeah. It's a different era now in college football. The players are moving around. It's NIL. It's almost like there are two types of recruiting in college football now. It's you've got to recruit kids who are in high school to come to your program. Yep. But then you've got to recruit kids in other programs to come to to get into the transfer portal and come to your program. And so to me, gone are the days of, he transferred schools, so something's wrong. or he's afraid of competition. I don't always think that's the case there. I think he went to a place that was a better fit for him, and I don't think he went to a place that was easier to go play. I don't think it's easy to go play anywhere anymore. I think it's hard to go and play, including at Toledo. So I think that's a good choice there, and I think there's room on the roster. I mean, the linebacker room has been revamped, and not just the pass rushers and the outside linebackers, Gyles. The inside guys have been revamped as well, and so I think there's opportunity there. So I think Dallas Gantt's a good choice. So going sort of segueing into my final one, it's tied to yours because I was prepared to go in on Donovan Manuel, the linebacker from FIU. But you've gone with Gantt, who plays kind of a similar position. So I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna go talk about the corner, Dwight McGlothern, because I think people listening were anticipating he would be on our list. Now, organically, naturally, he wasn't, because I wasn't going to go to him. I was going to go to Manuel. You went to Gantt. So he was left off of our list, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. To finish on Manuel, though, I think he's a natural fit in a 3-4 defense. He's a sideline-to-sideline athlete, a lot like Eric Kendricks was in his prime. And so I really like him with the Vikings. I like him with Flores. I like him in a 3-4. I think the inside linebacker, there's opportunity there for 1 starting spot and 2 depth spots. So I think along with Gantt, I think Manuel has a chance. One of the flaws with Manuel is I think he's got to play in front of a really stout front. He's got to have a couple of D tackles who can consume blockers so he can run sideline to sideline. That's the one thing about him that he's got to get better at is taking on blockers and shutting them. But let's go to the corner, McGlothern. Gyles, he was PFF's #1 cover corner last year. Did you know that in college football?
I did not know that. Oh my gosh.
He was PFF's #1 cover corner in college football last year. He gave up 1 completion over 15 yards last year.
Just 1.
Yep.
Come on, Dwight. What were you doing?
And I'm sitting here going, this cat is 6'2", 185. He plays for Arkansas. So he's not playing for, Gustavus, at D3 where I went to school. He's not covering Johnnies and Tommies. This guy's covering SEC receivers for Arkansas. And I'm sitting here being like, what the heck happened to this guy that he didn't get drafted? Well, I found out, not from the same source I talked about with Jones, who I liked, and not from Zim, but I found out from someone in the league he was a red dot guy, meaning he was off of some team's draft boards, and it wasn't for physical reasons. So there's a concern with him. And if it's not a physical or an injury reason, you can assume it's related off the field character. Now, I want to be careful with that because we don't know that. We don't have that information. We didn't research that. So, but I'm curious as to why the #1 cover corner in PFF went undrafted. There's got to be some reasons for that. But yeah, I'm, on the field profile with this guy, hard not to be excited. He started at LSU, then went to Arkansas, led the team in picks the last 2 years, had 8 total over the last 2 years, I believe. And again, didn't give up much for explosive plays. He did not time and test well at the combine. And then obviously we have a potential red dot issue where he was off a team's draft boards. But played top competition, has great size, and comes to a Vikings defense, Gyles, where I think are there any sacred cows in the Vikings corner room? Mekhi Blackman, Byron Murphy, Kyrie Jackson. Is there anyone else who's just automatic, no matter what they're making the team? Murphy, Blackman, Jackson. Caleb Evans?
not a Caleb Evans, I don't think.
Okay.
I do think Bakai Blackman has a special spot on the roster. I think for a rookie, I think this guy had pretty phenomenal play. So that's my gut reaction. He did pretty well for an NFL rookie, so I'm excited to see what his next year looks like. But other than that, I think to your point, there's not anyone that's like a lock, like, oh, you clearly are the starter here.
I don't think so either. Like, Byron Murphy is a definite starter, and you can feel good about him. Mekhi Blackman, I think it stands to reason he can improve greatly. And then Jackson, obviously you drafted him, so he's in there. So I don't think it's void of talent and potential. I think there's guys there who could develop, Booth, Evans, but McGlothern, I think, therefore has a chance. And again, I go back to Flo. He picked him. Like, he's on staff. This is not an inherited guy for Flores. He obviously saw some traits that he liked and picked him, and he's here. So he wasn't in my top 4, but I think we need to talk about him. I didn't want to stack us up at linebacker, so I went to corner, but I think McGlothern's a guy that everyone's going to be watching. And, hey, he's going to be tested because there's some receivers in the Vikings camp who are pretty good, right? So,
my goodness.
if he can make it out of mini camp and training camp for the Vikings, he's trial by fire a little bit there. So, overall, Gyles, I think a pretty good class of undrafted free agents here for the Vikings. I mean, they're undrafted guys. I mean, they can only be so good, right? So, Zim would always have a friendly game with the scouts, and he'd say, "I'll give you $500 if one of your guys that you found makes the team. I'll give you $500 or what? I can't remember what it was, $100 or whatever." They're always joking, because Zim knew, like, we got to get some of these undrafted guys to make the team, because we're paying Xavier and we're paying Barr, we're paying Kendricks. We got to get some guys for free around here, So Zim is always encouraging the scouts to find some of these undrafted guys. So teams take them seriously. And I think the Vikings have a good population of undrafted guys. It'll be fun to watch them develop here over the spring and summer.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at both the 2024 and 2025 draft capital for the Minnesota Vikings. To be very clear, I'm not dissing this move, but with the moves that you made in the 2024 NFL draft, you reduced your number of picks and your ability to go get other good players because you went and got Dallas Turner and JJ McCarthy, which are great moves in isolation. But that means you need to really hit on things like undrafted free agents to really fill out your roster because you didn't have all the draft picks that you would normally have, like on the day 3 side of the fence. That's what a lot of teams would use to try to build out the middle of their roster. We didn't have that. So I think that really puts the pressure on trying to win on these undrafted guys, which, I mean, if the trend continues from last year, I think we have some really good, interesting elements here. And I think that also kind of translates back to the Minnesota Vikings ownership and the Wilfs, that they're willing to pay those guys because you have to believe that other teams are vying for those guys' attention. Guys like McGlothern, like there had to have been other teams that are like, I didn't want to draft you, for PR reasons even, but I do want you in the room. I like your, performance is the best forgetful mechanism or potion for NFL fans. Like if you play good, Definitely. Everyone also forgets. So, I'm excited that the Minnesota Vikings are willing to put in the effort and, more importantly, the money to get guys like this in the building because that can really fill out your roster when you don't have NFL picks across the rest of the days.
Yep, well said. All right, so that's it. That's our deep dive on the undrafted free agents for the Minnesota Vikings. Keep your eyes and ears open, everyone, and see what the reports are like coming out of TCO Performance Center and the rookie mini camp this upcoming weekend. Always a fun time for those in the know and in the building is to see these rookies on the field in your colors for the first time. So Vikings fans will get a look at that here over the weekend. Before we go, Gyles, and let you continue to recover this morning before you get out and attack Wednesday in Vegas, the schedule release will happen next week. So I know it's always sort of a moving target, but it's another one of those Christmas in, we always talk about the draft as Christmas in April. Well, the schedule release is Christmas in May. We already know who the Vikings play, but next week, I believe on Wednesday, we'll find out when and what time they play those opponents. So that's always a fun day, and it'll give us something to talk about next week.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It is definitely Christmas, and I think there's a big conversation around the ordering of different components or opponents rather when you project your schedule moving forward, and more importantly your wins and losses. The timing of when you play each of those people are very, very important. So I'm excited to see how that falls for the Vikings because obviously we want them to win in 2024, and the schedule plays a big factor in that.
Yep, that's right. Alrighty, well, that's it for today. In our next episode of the Wobcast, everyone, Gyles and I are going to break down the offensive rookie of the year race in the NFL, and we're going to sort of talk through where we think J.J. McCarthy fits in that race. So we'll each do our own studying on that, Gyles, and I'm sure we'll be texting and talking on the phone about it. But we'll come together for the next episode of the Wobcast 2.0 and sort of discuss that and talk about that. So that'll be coming up here next. And then, of course, we'll have the schedule release, and then Gyles and I will attack any other news, notes, and nuggets from across Vikings Nation and the landscape of the NFL. So that's going to do it, though, for today. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, comment, engage with the Wobcast 2.0, Gyles and myself, wherever you do that with all your other favorite football content on social media, YouTube, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok. We're trying to be everywhere. We want to be where you are. So come find us, join the conversation. Once you do that, we'll see you there. On behalf of my partner and co-host Gyles, this is Wobby signing off for now. Until next time, everybody, Skol Vikings.